What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JC's Pop Culture. I'm JC, here where we talk movie reviews, movie commentaries, books, video games, you name it. We're going to talk about it pop culture wise here on the channel. Hope you're subscribed. If you haven't already, be sure and do that. Going to be covering plenty of movie news throughout 2024, starting right here with the films I'm most looking forward to that are going to be coming out this year. A lot of good shit coming down the pipe in 2024 that we got to talk about. So super hyped to get into this. So with no further ado, I've compiled a nice little list here. We're going to start with the honorable mentions, and then I've got my top 15 most anticipated movies of 2024. Here's my list, things I'm looking forward to. Let's get into this shit. All right, before we get into the top 15 most anticipated, got to lead it off with some films that almost made the cut, but I just had to drop off. I had a long list, a lot of good shit coming in 2024, like I said there. Some of these just didn't quite make the cut, and so some of these honorable mentions I wanted to name right here before we get into the list. Drive Away Dolls, I think it's going to be very good. You got Matt Damon, you got one of the Coen brothers, I believe it's Ethan, working on this, so it looks like it's going to be a pretty good movie. Excited about that one. Gladiator 2, obviously the first one, instant classic, one of the greatest movies of all time, arguably. Ridley Scott, I think obviously when you're having a sequel to that film, it's going to be highly anticipated, but didn't make my list just because I think some of these sequels that have come out to classic films have been really hit or miss a lot of times, and in some cases, I think, in my opinion, a lot of them have been fucking more misses than hits, to be honest with you. So that's why I just didn't feel comfortable putting it on this list, but I kind of, I guess, it's the word I'm looking for, hypocritical or something, I guess, right here, because I do have some of those movies in my list. You'll see as we run through it, but Gladiator 2, I guess, is one I'm just a little bit more skeptical of, just because the first one's such a classic. I kind of like, you really want to go back to that realm again, so didn't quite make the list, but still has great potential. Argyle, obviously got to be on the list. Matthew Vaughn, the Kingsman movie, is always a lot of fun, but you always know I'm a huge Man of Steel fan, huge Superman fan. And obviously, I love the Zack Snyder Justice League. I love Henry Cavill. Everything he did as Superman. He's one of the reasons that I got so into the character, a decade or so ago now, was Henry Cavill's performance in Man of Steel. So, going to watch whatever he does moving forward. Argyle looks like it's going to be a really good movie. Him and Matthew Vaughn teaming up. Excited about that one. Just misses the cut. Kraven the Hunter. The only reason it doesn't make the list completely is due to the simple fact that Sony's been having a lot of misses, obviously, on their movies. We're talking Morbin Time, all that shit, obviously. Venom 2, not the best movie, especially when you had Carnage. Could have done a lot of cool shit with that, and definitely far inferior to the first Venom movie, so skeptical on that. But Kraven the Hunter is a character that's awesome. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson's good actor to portray it. We'll see how it pans out though with Sony. That's why it misses the cut. Civil War. Now this is one I'm interested in, and I really fought with putting it on the list, and arguably if I had to redo this again, it might make the cut down there, near the bottom at 15 or so, just because all of these movies that have come out in recent years, you look at a movie like Don't Look Up a couple years ago, and then most recently this year, Leave the World Behind. Those type of movies that are kind of, I guess, like post-apocalyptic, world-ending type of movies. And Civil War seems like it's going to be the next in line of those type of movies, with it going, past that point that some of those went to where it's, fighting in the own country, kind of something that Leave the World Behind tease. So it could be a lot of fun. Just barely misses the list. And then Horizon and American Saga Parts 1 and 2. This is honorable mention just because of the fact that they're releasing two movies within, a few months of each other. I think the first one comes out in the spring, the second one in the summer, and it's Kevin Costner in a Western. So, you got to love that, right? Horizon American Saga could be cool, especially when they've already got it, teed up to drop two films in the same year. That's something you don't see very often, and I thought that was pretty cool. So definitely beared mention there. So now that we've ran through those honorable mentions, and I've probably rambled too damn much talking about those, let's get to what you're here for. Let's get to my top 15 most anticipated movies of 2024. And yes, I'm going to build anticipation and type these as we go, because it makes it a lot more fun that way when you don't see them coming in the list fully filled out beforehand. That's why I'm not doing it on Letterboxd or anything like that. But Lisa Frankenstein coming in at number 15. I'm interested in this one just because of some of the people involved in the movie. I think the trailer actually dropped today, the day that I'm recording this, funny enough, but I saw it's written by Diablo Cody. It's directed by Robin Williams' daughter, Zelda Williams, so that's interesting enough, and looks like it's a horror comedy type vibe. You got one of the Sprouse brothers in it, so could be interesting. So it's piqued my interest enough that it slots in here at number 15 on my top most anticipated films of 2024. And then at 14, we've got the Wolfman movie. This one might have been higher. Some recent changes, though, Ryan Gosling leaving the project. I like what they've got going with it still yet, and they're trying to get those old Universal horror monster movies, back up and running. Invisible Man was pretty awesome a few years ago. I think Wolfman still got some good potential to be a good movie. So much so that it's, in my top 15. So we'll see how it turns out now with the changes going on with that movie. but I think it could still be a lot of fun. At number 13 here, we have a remake, actually. Surprising that I would have one on the list. I'm usually critical of these most of the time, but it's a Roadhouse. I think it's obviously the Patrick Swayze classic. I've seen some new footage come out from this one here recently, and it definitely seems like it's going for a different tone, probably going to be more comedic than the original with Patrick Swayze. Obviously, Jake Gyllenhaal can carry a film. We know that. Not worried about his performance in the movie. We saw what he did in Southpaw. Seems like they're going kind of similar vibe for his type of aesthetic anyway. Going to be a UFC fighter in this one rather than a boxer. You're getting Conor McGregor in it, though. Don't know how that's going to pan out. That's got me a little bit more skeptical about it when you're bringing in someone that's not really, traditionally an actor in that type aspect. I think this one's going straight to Prime. I don't believe it's releasing theatrically, but it's something that I'm still kind of excited to check out just because I love the first movie with Patrick Swayze so fucking much. I mean, how can you not when you're ripping a dude's fucking throat out and shit like that? I mean, it's a great action flick. I don't think this one will have that type of gore action. I think they're going, like I said, a bit more comedic, different tone, but still excited for it. So it slates in here at number 13. And then here at number 12, this one is one I'm really excited about, actually. A lot of people probably don't know as much about this one, and it's The Bike Riders coming out next year. And this one I'm excited about because obviously Austin Butler's flexed his muscles, playing Elvis. So people are really interested in whatever he does next. So, I mean, that's obviously one thing that's getting people interested in this film. And of course, you add in the fact he's going to be joined by some other good actors: Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Boyd Holbrook. The list goes on. Written and directed by Jeff Nichols, and it's about a motorcycle club. So the reason it intrigues me, obviously a hard R rating, and if you're a fan of something like Sons of Anarchy, I think this could be something that's potentially right up your alley, chronicling this motor club's rise and everything. So it's like almost like a film version of that when I watch a little bit of trailer footage that we've got up to this point. I'm excited about this one. I think it could be really good. Like I said, it's been getting a lot of good buzz. We'll see how it pans out. Definitely high enough on here to make my top 15. So we'll see how it works out. Then here at number 11, one that may be higher if the circumstances were a little bit different, and that is the Joker sequel, Folly Ado, I think is how they're calling it, or whatever the official title is there. Obviously, I think it means like a shared illusion or something like that. And the reason it's not higher on this list and just misses out on being in the top 10 is, it's a musical. It's bringing in Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Not that I think either one of those things are bad, and I'm not a person that fucking hates musicals or anything like that. I know some people have really thumbed their nose at it since they heard it was going to be a musical, but I'm a fan of musicals. I grew up loving the movie Grease. I love, plenty of musicals, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I could name more right now if I wasn't trying to think of musicals off the top of my head, but I'm not hating on it just because it's a musical. The reason that I'm more skeptical is just because it seems like it's going to be a drastic shift in tone, maybe compared to what the first film we got was. And I don't know if that's because they don't really know how to do a sequel to that first film without doing it, completely different. I'm thinking of expecting, maybe something like a drastic tone shift, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And depending on how you feel about that film may determine how you feel about the Joker sequel. Me personally, I really love the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The second one, I've grown to love it more as I've gotten older, but I hate the shift in tone. I hate that it's pretty much a fucking comedy movie compared to the darkness of the first one. And I got a feeling that this may be where they're going with this Joker sequel, so that's why it doesn't quite make my top 10, but I'm still excited for it because the first one, phenomenal movie. I mean, one of my favorite DC movies ever made. It made $1 billion for a reason. Joaquin Phoenix was phenomenal in the movie. He'll probably be phenomenal again, and hopefully Todd Phillips has a great vision for it, so we'll see how it pans out there. But Joker, Folly Ado at number 11. And so now we're moving into the top 10 most anticipated movies of 2024 for me now. And this is where we get into some of the nitty gritty stuff, leading off with, the first horror movie on the list, really, I guess you can say. Lisa Frankenstein and Wolfman, but which I just realized I spelled Frankenstein wrong. That's going to look bad on the video if I keep that on there. We got to go back and fix that, don't we? But the thing is, Wolfman and Lisa Frankenstein aren't really slashers in the way that Strangers has been, and this one is obviously intriguing because they're rebooting the Strangers. Don't know why they're not carrying off of Prey at Night, really. I thought Prey at Night was phenomenal follow-up coming years later. I think a lot of people really loved that movie. But nonetheless, at least we're getting more Strangers. That's cool. And they got a planned trilogy. This is going to be chapter 1 of that trilogy. Rennie Harlan coming back to direct. And this guy's in some great action movies. Cliffhanger. He's had his ties in horror with, the Nightmare franchise as well. I believe he directed part 5. So, you got some good stuff going on there. And we'll see how that pans out. Obviously, The Strangers is a lot of fun. Hopefully, this reboot's good. And we'll see where it goes from there. I'm excited about enough that it cracks into the top 10 for me. And we're continuing on with the horror 5 here at number 9 with Saw 11. Saw 10, I took forever to finally get a chance to watch that. Just watched it recently about a week or two ago. And so obviously once I saw that and didn't believe the hype at first going in, but now I think the hype was real. It's definitely, top 5 in the franchise, top 3 in the franchise. Some people have it, their favorite there, and it's rare that a 10th movie is up there, but they really did some fun stuff with that. And I may or may not talk more about that when we talk about, top movies of 2023. You can have that video dropping soon on the channel, so be sure subscribe here, JC's Pop Culture, for more content coming up here, movie related wise. But Saw 11, Saw 10, and its performance suit really got me excited for whatever they're going to plan to do with Saw 11. I'm not sure exactly where this is taking place in the franchise. I liked what they did, placing Saw 10 in between Saw 1 and Saw 2. We'll see what they do, but I'm intrigued enough that it's in the top 10 there at number 9. And then moving on, we're still staying within the horror realm, though. I'm putting Alien Romulus just because that's what's been going around us. I know it's technically Fede Alvarez's untitled Alien movie, but I think this is going to be awesome as well. If I'm not mistaken, it takes place after Aliens, kind of disregarding Alien 3, if I'm not mistaken, and everything thereafter, which is another interesting, tactic I think some films and franchises have started to do, which is a lot of fun. Maybe Halloween 2018 was the one that kickstarted that shit. I'm not 100% sure, but it's been fun seeing other franchises revisited. Just talked about Saw doing it, and I think getting Fede Alvarez involved in Alien is a perfect combination. I'm really excited to see how that pans out, and it's going to be a lot of fun to get back into the Alien franchise here coming up in 2024. Super excited about that shit. Get some face hugger action coming up in 2024, so it's right there in the top 10, number 8. Then moving on here to number 7, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I was a huge fan of Afterlife. I think, if I remember right, it made my top 10 of the year a couple of years ago when it came out. I've been excited for the sequel ever since. I thought they really did some great stuff, paying homage to what came before and the great stuff they did, obviously honoring the great Harold Ramis. That was super emotional, and if you didn't shed tears, I don't know how cold your damn heart is, but it was really well done. And I think in this one, something I'm excited about is seeing, Paul Rudd suit up as a Ghostbuster is going to be fun. So obviously it's got to be in my top 10 if you're a fan of the Ghostbuster films. How could it not be? So coming in at number 7, we got Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And then right here at number 6, just missing out on the top 5, is the untitled Jordan Peele movie, his 4th film. And this is just due to the fact that it's actually no real information is known about the movie, right? But it's coming out on Christmas. They have announced that much. And obviously it speaks to my love of Jordan Peele, for one, and how good his first 3 movies were, in my opinion, just due to the fact that he's in the top 10 without knowing anything about the film, and just outside of the top 5 because I was such a fan of Get Out, such a fan of Us, such a fan of Nope. Us, my favorite out of the 3. I know that's probably a controversial opinion. A lot of people don't share that shit. A lot of people, weren't that biggest fans, but it blew my mind. I loved Us. I do a whole video essay on that. Maybe one day I will or something, but I've loved all his movies up to this point. Nope would be 3rd out of those 3 for me, but I still really enjoyed it, him touching on the sci-fi realm. And with it releasing on Christmas, I'm anxious to see where he goes with this and when more information comes out about it. But Jordan Peele has done good stuff, obviously, when he's in the top 10, when you don't really know anything about the movie yet. Coming in at number 6 for me, which brings us to the top 5 most anticipated films for me coming in 2024. Let's dive in on this shit, and we're talking about my fandom a little bit with Jordan Peele. We're really talking about my fandom with this one, because a lot of people probably don't even know much about this one. I'm probably the only person that you're going to see have this on their most anticipated films of 2024 list, but that's just because my fucking love of Kevin Smith. I'm sitting here looking at an original Clerks poster right now. Got a Kevin Smith pop back there, a couple of them on display, I do believe. I don't know if you can see him in the shot or not, but Kevin Smith's my guy. He's the reason that I got into loving movies. He's the reason that I would love to, one day be a screenwriter, all of that shit. A lot of people that know me personally know about my love for Kevin Smith. So anytime that he's got a movie releasing, it's probably going to be in my top 5 most anticipated movies of the year, if not higher. So the 4:30 movie, he actually got a waiver throughout the strike to, work on this. So far as I know, it's pretty much in the can. He's hoping to pitch it around to some festivals, is what I heard him say on the last episode of Fat Man on Batman, that he talked about it. And I'm super excited about this one. It takes place in the 80s, and it's just about a group of kids kind of theater hopping for the day, from what I understand about it, and kind of a feel-good Kevin Smith movie is the way that he's described it. Maybe a bit more of a tearjerker and a little bit more different than the blue comedies that we know Kevin Smith for. But if Kevin Smith's there, making it it, I'm there in the theater day one, and I'll be there for the 4:30 movie. That's why it's in my top 5. Can't wait to see this. Taking place in the 80s, theater hopping, shit that I like. Kevin Smith, sign me up right there in the top 5. So let's move on now. Top 4 most anticipated movies now of 2024. A lot of these you'll probably know a little bit more about here. Let's get into it. Starting here at number 4 with Nosferatu. Also, we talked about Jordan Peele's next movie releasing on Christmas. Nosferatu is going to be releasing on Christmas as well. And if you're a fan of Robert Eggers, you're going to be excited for this one. I know a lot of people love The Witch. They loved, The Lighthouse. They loved The Northman. What the fuck was that movie called? I gotta look it up. Watch that one. Obviously. The Northman. Yeah, that's right. I thought it was something like that. But obviously that one is really great. I still gotta catch that one. And hopefully in the lead up to Nosferatu this year, maybe I'll catch up on some Robert Eggers movies that I have not seen yet. But I'm super excited about this one. We talked about going back to classics a little bit when we were talking about, the Universal monster movies that have came back. But I think Nosferatu still, to me, is my favorite interpretation of like Dracula. It should be that, creepy, disgusting kind of feel. And the stills that have come out to this is you're talking about a modern day movie that's really, looking like it's going to have some of the visual influences of obviously the 1920s Nosferatu and still have some of that lurking in the shadows. And you got Bill Skarsgård coming over from, playing Pennywise. He's done some awesome things and he can really portray these characters great. And the stills that we've got from it seem really intriguing. And I'm super excited about this one. It has the potential, I think, to be one of the best vampire movies to come out in a long time, especially when you're talking an actually scary vampire movie. I think Nosferatu is going to be awesome coming out next Christmas. Almost had it even higher than this, but it's my 4th most anticipated movie of 2024 at this point. So top 3, guys, here we go. Let's get into this shit. Top 3 most anticipated movies of 2024 for me. And this one, I talked a little bit earlier about how I'm a bit hypocritical because I think all 3 of my tops are kind of sequels and a couple of them are the legacy type sequels, I guess you could say. But it's Twisters, guys, for multiple reasons. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the original Twister movie. Good disaster movies, I'm a sucker for those. The original Twister is one of the best of those ever made. Bill Paxton with an incredible performance. Helen Hunt, you go on down the line there, and you get an incredible performance, of course, from Philip Seymour Hoffman. Just a home run cast in that original. I think now, doing it in today's time, obviously with the effects, you can do some special things with those tornadoes. That could be a lot of fun, but I hope they don't rely too much on CGI and still mix in a good bit of practical. But the other reason that I'm really intrigued, obviously, you guys know, being the Superman fan that I am, doing the DC shit that I do on the channel, and one of the most anticipated movies that I've been providing updates on and going to try and provide updates on until the lead up in 2025, Superman Legacy. And we got David Cornsweet going to be in this Twisters movie, so we get to see him. If you haven't watched him yet, maybe you check out Twisters, get your first glimpse of him if you don't check out something else before then. So super excited about Twisters. It hits my top 3 most anticipated of the year. All right, top 2, guys. That means we're here. Number 2, man, I wanted to put this at number 1, but I think the things that I said earlier, when talking about Gladiator 2 and stuff, kept me from putting this at number 1, but it's Beetlejuice 2, guys. I think, Beetlejuice is one of my, favorite comedies of all time. Michael Keaton, fucking perfect as Beetlejuice. You guys know I love Michael Keaton, love him as Batman, loved him as Beetlejuice. Multiplicity, another underrated comedy. If you've never seen Multiplicity, go watch Michael Keaton do some comedy greatness in Multiplicity, playing different comedic versions of himself. Just funny as hell in that movie. But, I'm not talking about that, talking about Beetlejuice, nice fucking model, all that good shit, Beetlejuice is great. And I think, getting Tim Burton back, getting Michael Keaton back, the sequel's been rumored, for years and years. They, nearly went into production with it. Who knows how many times. Finally getting it in 2024. It's going to feel almost surreal, but you're also, bringing in someone that Tim Burton's had success with in Jenna Ortega, getting her involved in the franchise as well. That's going to be a box office draw. That can only help, and like I said, Michael Keaton and Tim Burton back alone would have sold the ticket for me. Like I said, I'm skeptical because some of these sequels haven't been the best. I think of, like the Coming to America sequel that I absolutely hated, some other ones along that line, and I'm just got my fingers crossed that Beetlejuice doesn't fall in that line, but I think they've got enough players back from the original that it should be a pretty good sequel, and I'm super excited about this one. It's my number 2 most anticipated film of the year, which brings us to drum roll, please. The most anticipated movie of 2024, and I think it's on a lot of people's list as the most anticipated movie. It's Deadpool 3, guys. Love comic book films, love superhero films. First 2 Deadpools, fucking comedic genius, hilarious, laughed your ass off in the movie theater, and we need that again. We need that in 2024. We don't get a ton of comedies. We don't get hardly any blue comedies in the movie theaters. Deadpool gives you that. Deadpool, scratches the superhero itch in a way that no other movie does. It doesn't, it's not going to really feel victim of the superhero fatigue because it's, fourth wall breaking. It's just so much different than any other superhero film that we're going to get and that we have gotten, since the last one came out. So I think a lot of people are super excited for it, but also a little bit, trepidatious in their excitement because obviously it's the first one, under the Disney umbrella. So people are a little bit scared, but I think it's still going to be good. We've seen some awesome steals, and you're fucking getting Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the yellow suit for at least a portion of this movie. How can that not alone put it up near the top of your list if you're a fan of, the old X-Men cartoon animated series and shit like that, and obviously a fan of the X-Men movies, and of course a fan of the first two Deadpool movies. The fuck am I talking about? But if you're a fan of the first two Deadpool movies, Ryan Reynolds, perfect, born to play that character. I think the third one's going to be awesome. It's number one for me, guys. So there it is, my top 15 most anticipated films of 2024. Let me shrink this page a little bit so you guys can see the list all together here. And it's probably going to have some choices that other anticipated films lists aren't going to have, but hey, that's what it's there for, right? That's the fun of it. That's what we do it here. That's why I make this videos, because it's different than anyone else's, hopefully, and you get a little bit something different out of it. But wanted you to get a complete look at the list there, all 15 movies that I'm excited about in 2024. But of course, those aren't the only movies I'm hype about in 2024. There's a shit ton more. I've got a calendar right here beside me that I'm trying to write all the releases on, so I know what's coming up, and going to try and bring you guys more reviews coming up in 2024. If I've got a New Year's resolution, I guess it's that shit. Just try and put out more content here on JC's Pop Culture. But like I said, that's just my list. It's only my opinion, but I would love to hear your opinion as well. What films are you looking forward to in 2024? Drop it in the comments. Share your most anticipated films list, and be on the lookout for my top films that I watched in 2023. Going to be releasing that in the near future, and plenty of other content here on JC's Pop Culture. So be sure, hit the thumbs up button before you head out. And if you're a fan of pop culture, movies, films, video games, TV series, all that shit, be sure to subscribe here to JC's Pop Culture for plenty more content on that coming in the near future. Looking forward to all these films and chatting with you guys more in 2024. Until then, later, film fans.